All right, gang, I am off to go see Ghostbusters.
Starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis.
No, not that one. The other one. The other movie.
It's a class 4 operation. It's okay. She seems peaceful. My name is Erin Gilbert, Doctor of Particle Physics.
Yeah, that's it. Not really a sequel, not really a reimagining, mostly a reboot remake thingy. There's been an absolute shitstorm that has been erupting about this movie from the very first day it's been announced.
The city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
Real wrath of God type stuff. Fire and brimstone coming down from the sky.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
And you know what? Even I have to admit that I've been really wrapped up in the negative pre-release stuff that's been going on about this movie because I have adored the first Ghostbusters film since I saw it as a 9-year-old. I gotta say, the very thought of remaking this film, it just kind of has me like...
Nobody steps on a church in my town. 1, 2, 3, go!
So I have this really wild and audacious and out there idea. I decided to get in my car, drive to the movie theater, see this movie, and then make an informed opinion as to its quality or lack thereof before opening my big fat Ukrainian mouth online on social media. I know. It's pretty crazy. I just got recognized by a guy on the street who recognized me from my CTV work, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, movie guy, you going to see that really shitty Ghostbusters movie tonight?" All right, gang, I just got out of Ghostbusters. No, not that one. The other one. The least controversial film in motion picture history. Before the movie, I picked up this wonderful Blu-ray copy of Richard Linklater's wonderful 1980s coming-of-age comedy, Everybody Wants Some. I don't know why I'm actually talking about that on this review. Maybe because I'm just trying to avoid having to review Ghostbusters. I mean, seriously, it's like, you give this film a good review, you're damned on social media. You give it a bad review, you're damned on social media. What do I do? You know what? I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing that I've done for the other 1,488 reviews that I've done over the last 12 years. I'm just going to be honest and tell you exactly what I think of it.
Well, there's something you don't see every day.
All right, so where do I begin? Where do I even begin when it comes to talking about this incredibly divisive film? Now, I know there's one question that has been on everybody's mind since this film was announced, and that is this. How good is the 3D in this movie? And I gotta say, this is probably some of the best 3D I have ever seen in a movie. And I'm not bullshitting you. It is incredible.
The power of penny compels you!
Okay, sarcasm aside, I'm not sure how we could possibly even begin to talk about this new Ghostbusters reboot without even really mentioning the really large and completely ridiculous and unnecessary elephant that is in this film's room, and that is the cast, the female cast. And you know what? It is the biggest non-red herring, I think, in recent motion picture history. The cast of this film is the least of this film's problems, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with there being a Ghostbusters film that has an all-female cast. Now, it is very petty and very wrong when there's a lot of sexist and misogynistic assholes online that rip this movie to shreds before even having seen it because it stars women. And that's petty and wrong. But you know what else is petty and wrong? It's also petty and wrong when film critics this week came out and reviewed this movie, some of which gave it a bad review, and then they were labeled as being sexist for giving a bad review. That's also petty and wrong. So you know what? The blame game can go on both sides of the gender fence on this film. Having said that, though, you really have to stop and ask yourself a question after you come out of this film, or even before you go into it, and that is this: was the general public truly hungry for another Ghostbusters film, let alone a Ghostbusters remake? And you know what? Another thing that people probably are not really talking about nearly as much as they should is whether or not this film even needs to exist. Okay? Before I went into this film, the trailers didn't really do this movie any good service at all, and the advertising campaign for this movie was terrible, and it certainly led to a lot of the bad vibes for a lot of people going in. I mean, look at that first trailer. You know, for a film that's trying to be faithful to the original Ghostbusters, the whole fact that it makes a factual error within its first 30 seconds. I mean, seriously, it wasn't 4 scientists in the first Ghostbusters film. It was 3 scientists plus 1 other guy. So that sort of is a warning sign of the intents of the makers here. And for me, like, a good reboot / remake should do 2 things. First of all, it should be faithful to the tone and spirit of the film that it's trying to adapt. And also, it should sort of intrepidly and sort of audaciously take the material and the established characters and the themes and so forth, and sort of take a refreshingly different spin on them, and sort of recalibrate them for contemporary audiences and for modern day consumption. And on those levels, the Ghostbusters reboot is half successful. It's very faithful to the original 1984 film, sometimes to its detriment. But on the other hand, it really just uses the 1984 film as a broad blueprint, and it really essentially copies it. It doesn't really do anything really fresh or invigorating with the material. So on those levels, the film is kind of a failure. And you know what, for me, I'm not completely anti-remake or anti-reboot at all. Generally speaking, I don't like them. But you know what? I'll be the first to admit, there's been a lot of reboots / remakes that I have actually enjoyed. Man of Steel, that's a good, solid reboot. Ocean's 11, that's a very good remake. The Manchurian Candidate was probably one of the best remakes that I have ever seen, and that's a really good example. But don't get me wrong, there's also a lot of terrible examples. Again, going back to the cast, the one thing that I took out of this film that I really actually kind of enjoyed is the cast is actually, for the most part, they're pretty good in this film, and they have a really good, strong repartee and chemistry in the film. Kristen Wiig, I've always found to be a really shrewd and confident comedic actress, as well as sort of a dramatic actress. She can really play hop between both fences really easily. Melissa McCarthy, now I'll be honest, I have been really hard on Melissa McCarthy films over the last several years, and you know what, I like it when she plays against type, like in small low-key film roles like in St. Vincent, and I also liked her in Spy, a Paul Feig film, who also directed Ghostbusters. I also really like The Heat, another Paul Feig film. But I'm telling you, when she's in movies like Identity Theft and Tammy and the Boss, she is fingernails on a chalkboard annoying. So Leslie Jones also is a Saturday Night Live alumni, and I thought she was actually very decent. She scored a lot of decent laughs in this film as well. However, I gotta say, for as potentially progressive-minded as this film sort of thinks it is, I find that her character was very stereotypically rendered and very regressive. Like, why does the one African American character have to be the streetwise, no nonsense, tough talking character? Why couldn't she be a scientist?
I'm joining the club. You guys are really smart about this science stuff, but I know New York.
Now, Kate McKinnon, on the other hand, man, I think she is destined to be a movie star. She has all the tools in her arsenal to be a major movie star. And I really liked her in this movie, but I guess my main problem is she is so over the top and so overwrought, and she's playing a borderline cartoon character in this film, and I liked her performance, yet I didn't think it meshed with the type of tone that the film was going for. The other thing too is that this Ghostbusters film really aggressively goes out of its way for laughs. It's trying really hard to be funny. And the one thing with the original Ghostbusters film, and this may sound really odd, is that film wasn't really trying to go out of its way to be a comedy. It just happened to be a film about normal guys who just happened to be funny. And the performances in that film felt natural and lived in. They didn't feel like broad caricatures like a lot of the characters do in this film. And you know, Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson, they felt like real credible entities in their film world. And then the laughs kind of came out naturally as a result of that. I never got that vibe with this film. Holy shit, Chris Hemsworth is hysterical in this film. He plays, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the stupidest receptionists, male or female, in motion picture history. I mean, it was so infectious.
Hello. I'm here about the receptionist job.
Hi. Abby, we spoke on the phone.
We did.
Hello
yeah.
there. Okay.
Kevin. Hi, can you answer the phone?
Can't. It's in the fish tank.
No, the one on the desk that's ringing. That one.
Oh, that one. Here's your coffee, Abby.
Thank you. Did you get sugar in it this time?
I hate coffee. Yeah, the sugar's in it.
Can I ask why no glass?
They just kept getting dirty, so I took them out.
Don't listen.
I won't.
He covered his eyes.
And you know, it's not spoilers to be talking about this, but one thing that really took me out of this movie were the cameos by the actors from the original film, like Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and so forth. And you know what? They're so obtrusively distracting. If I was going to write a college course on how not to make a remake, the first part of the curriculum would be, don't put in actors from the original film in your film, because they stick out like a sore thumb and they take you out of the movie, and they just end up making you think about how good the original movie is. If you want your reboot and remake to stand on its own 2 feet, don't go out of your way to drum up memories of the first film. I can't say though that this film is as awful as all the negative pre-release hype has been making it out to be. Is it terrible? No. Is it funny in modest dosages? This film is very funny. Is it scary? Not really. The one thing I took away from the first Ghostbusters, even having watched it again recently, is that, you know, it's a fairly chilling and scary movie at times. Like, it actually scared me to death when I was 9 years old when I saw it. There's not a lot of tangible scares in this film, which I think is another thing that really kind of holds it back. And then, of course, we're on the subject of the film's climax, which really builds towards this really large-scale visual effects sequence that is neither really exciting nor scary. It's oddly enough, sort of the gigantic ghost-like creatures, that's all I'll say without going into fuller spoilers, in this film seem oddly less realistic than the special effects at the end of the first Ghostbusters film. It's really kind of bizarre.
Oh no, mother puss bucket.
And you know, the villain in the film is a real mixed bag. I would say he's not even that well defined. He's sort of just a one-note creepy villain who talks in the mirror and talks about how he will be the demise of the Ghostbusters. It's like, come on, is that the best you could offer? This is a very hard movie to review, because I hold the first Ghostbusters film so dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. But you know what? This film is not an act of sacrilege in any way. I really like the cast in this film. I think they really sort of hold it all together. So again, all the controversy and the sexist bullshit that's been going online for all these many months, it's just nonsensical hooey, because they're really, for the most part, quite wonderful in this movie. I just think, though, that when all is said and done, they don't do enough with the Ghostbusters premise, nor do they really carry it forward and try to do different things with it to really command my interest. And the movie didn't offend me. It's not awful. It's just more disappointingly redundant and kind of unnecessary. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the original Ghostbusters films and what you thought of this film. Also, if you can like this video, I would sincerely appreciate it. Another thing, if you could hit that subscribe button too, that would mean the world to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the movies, everybody.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
That is all. Carry on.